Good afternoon. I'm here to share with you my story, my passion, and my dream. I dreamed that one day we could end preventable blindness in this world. A bit about myself. When I was a kid, I loved science. I liked fixing things. I wanted to be a great scientist or inventor, inspired by the great Thomas Edison. I even had my own toolkit, science boxes. I was like the little mechanic or engineer in the house, repairing various things from torches, radios, to computers. But when I was 17, it was time to make a decision, a career-making decision. I thought that's easy. I love science, biology, I like fixing things. Well, I told my dad, I want to be a biomedical scientist or a bioengineer. My dad's cool. He said, then you should speak to someone in that field, find out if it suits you. So I did. I got brought around different hospitals, labs, being shown all the cool equipments and techs, biotech farms. Well, eventually, I decided that being a doctor might be a better choice for me. I like fixing things, but I never fix a human body. But no harm giving it a try, doing good at the same time. So I went to Ireland, did my medical training. Throughout the years of my training, I heard lots of inspiring stories from doctors who have done work in the developing nations. So I wanted to give that a try. So I've done several of my attachments in Nepal, Kenya, Malaysia. The first country I landed, Kenya, 8 years ago when I was still a medical student. I went to those countries, like many others, with high hope of making a change. But when I arrived, that hope was smashed. There are just too many sick people, all kinds of diseases, lack of funding, lack of equipment. They even had to use restored and reused bottles like this to store the medications. And that pile of gloves, those are not to be thrown away. They are to be rewashed and reused. Things that we threw away without a second thought in the developed nations. And I have to admit that it was during the attachment in Kenya that I saw my first cataract surgery. It was on a patient who has been blinded by cataract for the last 10 years. The look on the patient's face gave me that overwhelming feeling. That feeling that you have really made a difference in that person's life by restoring the sight. To me, sight is the most important sensory perception. Saying that, there's 285 million people around the world who are visually impaired. 39 million of them are blind. 90% of those people live in the developing countries. 80% are preventable. What does the statistics really tell us about us? But it reminds us that we're living in an unbalanced world where only the rich could afford standard healthcare and the poor being ignored. One of the major problems lies in the access to affordable eye equipment. A simple camera to look at the back of the eye costs easily more than $20,000. A microscope to look at the front of the eye costs more than $15,000. Imagine living in the middle of sub-Saharan Africa. How could you afford to buy any of this equipment? Even if you could, they're just too big, bulky, and fragile to be brought around for few trips. So I think that's not right. No one deserves to be blind if it's preventable. It's time for a change, but I had no solution. It was not until a year ago, when I was down in Dunedin, doing a course, we came across various optical instruments, studying how it works. We even built our own telescope and microscope. An idea hatched. I thought, I could use this knowledge and invent something that is cheap, affordable for all the people who need it. And I'd say, why don't I invent a device for doctors to look at the inside of the eye? The eye is an interesting organ. A small and tiny organ, yet a powerful one. Comparing that to a modern camera like what you have in the iPhone 6, 8 megapixels, the eye is capable of achieving up to 576 megapixels. However, like any other organ, it is prone to degenerations and diseases. Conventionally, we divide the eye to the front of the eye and the back of the eye. Looking at the front of the eye, It's not that difficult. It is not enclosed. But looking at the back of the eye, that's tricky. You've only got that tiny pupil, and you've got to look through that small window. And conventionally, you're going to need some special equipment or camera to do so. The back of the eye gives you insight to the health of a person. Top blinding diseases such as diabetes, glaucoma, macular degenerations, all have findings in the retinal. So that's what inspired me, and I should take this up as a challenge to create a device to look at the inside of the eye with my smartphone. Something that I carry around. 95% of the doctors around the world has a smartphone. So, putting on my thinking cap, I took out a box of lenses, and I tried taking them out one by one with my phone, putting on the torchlight. I needed to try on someone, so I say, well, let's try it on my wife. For 10 minutes, shining that torch in, I just can't get a good picture. Well, she started protesting. Wife, yep. Saying that I was blinding her with my bright torch. So then I tried on my baby. Well, retrospectively, I think that wasn't a good idea. Then I tried on a fish I caught before we ate it. I just can't get a good picture. I knew I needed help. Someone with good knowledge in engineering, optics, industrial designs. So I drew a picture on my computer. Well, it took me 5 days to draw that. Finally, I posted it up on Facebook and my website asking for help. Within 24 hours, I've got more than a dozen responses. Some even emailed me personally, and they're ready to buy a picture I just drew. But eventually, I found a team. And we managed to go across the whole process of prototyping, the designs, and everything. Some were failure, some were great. But the end result was a fully functional fundus camera that enables a doctor to look at the back of a person's eye on a smartphone. It even came to good use a couple of times. Just less than a month ago, I had a patient who presented to the Gisborne hospital. And Gisborne hospital is a very small hospital. There's no eye surgeons around who could perform a surgery. The patient had a sight-threatening condition we call retinal detachments, which require immediate treatment. So luckily, I was there. I had the device in my backpack, so I just took it out. Within a minute, the right diagnosis was done. So instead of sitting there for days or weeks and potentially go blind, she got her diagnosis and treatment within 5 hours. So showing you a picture might be boring. That's why let's try a live demo. I know it's always a bad idea, but let's give it a try. So here I have the device. And we're lucky enough to have Oscar as a volunteer. So turning on that. And that's his eye, you can see that. We're trying to look at the retinal. So you can see the vessels in the retinal. So the retinal is an extension of the brain, and literally we're looking at his brain. Thank you. So now that I've created this device, what am I going to do with it? Well, lots of people tell me that I should get a patent, make some money, sell it. But that's not really my idea. I mean, that's not the point of me creating that. Anyone could come up with something like that. I would like to bring it to a totally different level, make it even better, make it accessible, freely available. So, what we've done is we're releasing the patents for free, making it the first open source eye equipment in the world. anyone around the world could just download the files, make the necessary amendments for improvement, resubmit it for the better good of the community. And better still, the device that we've created is compatible with 3D printing. So literally, anyone on the other side of the globe could just download that file, takes them 20 minutes, 3D print it in 3 hours, assemble it in 10 minutes. In 4 hours, you could have a fundus camera on the other side of the globe. What if you don't have a 3D printer? It's a problem, isn't it? Well, not really. There's an online community known as 3D Hubs, where it connects more than 15,000 3D printers all around the world. Depends on where you are, where you live. All you have to do is to select your location, find the nearest one to you, upload the file, get a quote, get the device within the day or the next day. So ultimately, it's not just a simple camera that we're building. We're building an ecosystem that transforms all the eye equipment that you need in an eye clinic into simple, affordable, and portable equipment by applying the same principles. So anyone around the world doesn't have to go blind. We're packing all the equipment that you need into tiny objects, affordable, small things that you can just put in the bag. So my take-home messages are, there are millions of them out there who are blind. Majority of them are preventable. One of the major problems lies in access to affordable eye equipment. And my work here is the start of making affordable open source eye equipment available. So ending preventable blindness is my fight. What's yours?